Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how was your day? I hope you are all doing well. I'm Yasmin Agadia from K2 Maritim Raja Ali Haji University. This video I made for academic speaking course. So let's talk about some article that the title is Students Learning Strategies for Developing Speaking Ability. The authors from this article are Sofyan Agani, Dian Fajrina, and Rizaldi Hanifa. So before we talk about the topic, let me tell you about the definition of the title. First, learning strategies is referred to methods that students use to learn, while speaking ability means a skill which allow us to communicate effectively. So after we know about the meaning of the title, let's begin to the topic material deeply. So this study was done to study the learning strategies used by both low and high performance speaking students in developing their speaking skills, as well as the differences between the learning strategies used by both groups of learners. The reason for conducting this research was the fact that the competency of many students in speaking English was still considered unsatisfactory in Banda Aceh. We postulate that one aspect involved in the process of developing speaking skills was the learning strategies used by the learners. In this study, the data was collected through field research by means of documents, questionnaire, and interview. The result of this study indicate that high-performance speaking students had better balance in using all kinds of learning strategies: memory, cognitive, compensatory, metacognitive, affective, and social. For enhancing their speaking skills, the same could not be found with low-performance speaking students. Speaking is the most important skills that must be mastered well in learning a new language. For most people, mastering speaking skills is the single most important aspect of learning a foreign language, and success is measured in terms of the ability to carry on a conversation in that language. However, speaking a foreign language is not an easy skill to be mastered by learners. Learners consider speaking as the most difficult skill since it needs great courage as well as preparation to speak well in the new language. Speaking has 5 components, namely grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, fluency, and pronunciation. Students have to be aware of these components. Before they speak, they should know that what they will say. Therefore, they need to have many ideas in their mind about what they will say. In addition, students must be able to use correct pronunciation, otherwise it will be difficult for listeners to understand them. Moreover, in order to be able to speak fluently and correctly, they must have sufficient vocabulary and must be able to arrange their sentences so that they can be understood. If all these things are done well, the students surely will be able to speak well and their listeners will get the message easily. So for the next, we will talk about review of literature. First is speaking. Speaking is an interactive process of constructing meaning that involves producing and receiving and processing information. In speaking, the students learn how to organize ideas, arrange sentences, and express language in spoken form with good pronunciation and comprehensible language. They must also learn about how to deliver the meaning of the language according to the context they are speaking. The second is language learning strategies. From the many different strategies, there are many options from which learners consciously select in order to optimize their chance of success in achieving their goals in learning and using the language. Learners employ language learning strategies consciously when processing new information and performing tasks. These strategies help them to comprehend better and quicker. The third is classification of language learning strategies. Language learning strategies categorizes into 3 main groups. The first is learning strategies, communication strategies, and social strategies. Learning strategies include all strategies that are directly related to learning cognitive. or thus which indirectly involve the learning process or metacognitive. Cognitive strategies comprise clarification, practice, memorizing, and monitoring. Planning, setting goals, and self-management belong to metacognitive strategies. While communication strategies are strategies that less directly relate to language learning since their focus is on the process of participating in a conversation and getting meaning across or clarifying the speaker's intention. The subjects were asked for 5 questions, namely, first is what do you do to improve your pronunciation? The second is what do you do to improve your vocabulary? Number 3 is what do you do to make your grammar better? And number 4 is what do you do to improve your fluency in speaking? And the last one is what do you do to improve your comprehensions in speaking? During the interview, data was recorded using a handphone recorder. The procedure for data analysis for this research study was as follows. First, after collecting the documents from the teachers, we note and categorize the students with high or low speaking performance to identify the subjects for this research. Second, the data from the questionnaires and the interviews was gathered and translated into the target language. Third, the data were further coded to classify the learner's learning strategies. Fourth, the data was grouped into language learning strategies used by low and high speaking performance learners. Then it was analyzed based on high performing learners and language learning strategies. Low performing learners language learning strategies and the differences between the language learning strategies used by both groups of learners. Fifth, the result of the document, interpretation, questionnaires, and interview were described in the form of a narrative. Finally, the sixth step was to draw a brief conclusion of the research findings. From the result of the questionnaires, we note that the learning strategies most often used by the students with low speaking performance were usually compensations and social strategies. Meanwhile, memory, cognitive, and metacognitive and affective strategies were not so often used. On the other hand, students with high speaking performance had a better balance in the learning strategies they use. That is, these students employ memory, cognitive, and compensation strategies with much of the same degree of frequency. Moreover, the other strategies of metacognitive, affective, and social were also used more equally. In other hands, high-performance speaking students had more balance in the learning and practicing strategies that they use. The data also indicate that low-performance students sometimes applied strategies that were not very effective for completing certain language tasks, such as enhancing pronunciation by reading a dictionary and improving fluency by memorizing a sentence. On the other hand, high speaking performance students use a larger number of strategies appropriately so that they could accomplish various language tasks. If it stems from frequency, high speaking performance students usually use all 6 strategy aspects, namely memory, cognitive, compensation, metacognitive, affective, and social strategies for enhancing their speaking skills more equally. They had more balance in their use of the various strategies, meanwhile, the low-performance students tended to more focus on employing compensation and social strategies than on memory, cognitive, metacognitive, and affective strategies to enhance their speaking skills. Thus, the low-performance speaking students need to focus more on improving other learning speaking strategies and not be too focused on only compensation and social strategies. Okay everyone, I think that's all for my oral presentation, and thank you for watching. Thanks for your kind attention. Goodbye.